welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another RiseStream here today. Little, um, we have a special little talk here today. This is a very special Christmas that we got going on. As you can see, we have Bogey Zimmer on the top left there. Say what's up, Bogey. We have Bo. We have Jacob Valdez. As you can see, in the in the just the stick figure because my camera is not doing so great right now. We have Bernadette Torres and we have Jerry Torres here. This is going to be a nice little chat that we have going here. I think. Pastor Jerry Torres, how are you doing today? Yeah, they can hear me. I can see it. They can hear me right now. They're good.
Talk about seeing that next week is Christmas, and we should hopefully be spending time with our families. I know with COVID and everything, that might put some limitations on things, but we also know and are very aware of those families that are dealing with hard times as well, and or maybe have lost a family member and are feeling a sense of grief and loss at that as well. And so, how do you bring joy and peace into your life when this stuff's happening? And when we were talking today, I was reminded of a story in the book of Job. And it's actually a story of a man named Job. And Job, see, he was a wealthy man in the land of Uz, and he had extensive flocks and a large family. And God said, the Bible says he was blameless and upright. Always careful to avoid evil, in chapter 1, verses 1. And so, but one day, Satan, he appeared before God in heaven, and God boasts to Satan about Job's goodness. And this was interesting because Job was just living out his life, and the devil was complaining about mankind. And it wasn't the devil who called out Job. It was actually God boasting about Job's goodness. But Satan, he argued that Job is only good because God had blessed him abundantly. And so Satan challenged God, if given permission to punish the man, Job will turn against God. And God allowed Satan to torment Job, and to test him boldly. But he says, you can't touch Job at all. You can't harm his life. You can't take his life in this process. And so in the course of one day, literally a day, Job, he receives 4 messages, each bearing separate news or bringing separate news to him that his livestock, servants, 10 children all died due to invaders or natural catastrophes. And you're talking about thousands of livestock and servants and hundreds of servants. And he was a very wealthy man. And so Job tears his clothes and shaves his head in mourning, and he still blesses God in his prayers. And so Satan appears in heaven again and says, grant him me another chance, to test Job. And I bet you, though, if you let me inflict pain on him, that he'll curse you. And so God allows it. And this time, Job's given horrible sores, and his wife is encouraging him to curse God and to give up and die. Man, there's nothing to Harry. I don't know why she wants him to die, but she's literally encouraging him to die, and Job refuses, though, struggling to accept these circumstances. Then his friends come over, his 3 good friends, and they're sitting with Job in silence for 7 days out of respect for his mourning, and then he finally starts talking to them, and they start calling him out, saying, you're only being punished because of your sin. And Job's like, what the heck? I haven't done nothing. I haven't done anything to deserve this. What do you guys mean? And so he starts looking to God, and he starts recognizing that, by the way, it's also unclear to Job how a human can appease or court God's justice, meaning he starts looking at God like, who am I to question God in that way? God's unseen, and his ways are you can't like scrutinize God's ways, because how could we understand God, what God is doing with our finite human minds? God is so much bigger than that. He created the whole universe. No, none of us could create the universe or create a universe. And so he starts to go back to that, like, you know what? God's in control. And then his friends are offended by him because he's saying, look, none of your wisdom is relevant. And now his friends are offended because they think like, gee, you don't even want to listen to us. And so they start to question him, and they think that he's running his mouth so much and saying all these things because he has sin, and not one of them believe in it. And in the end, the story ends with him um, finally getting to the point where he's like, you know what, God, it's all about you. I trust you. Um, I give it all up to you. And at the end of all this, God literally provides him with twice as much property as before, restores his family, and gives him an extremely long life. All the stuff that happened to Job probably is more than any one lifetime. And what it kind of reminded me of is, and put me in a place to like really focus on, was that there's this whole idea of focusing on eternity and not the things of this earth. And that's the blessing that really provides a lot of peace and joy for those who are believers. And those who aren't believers have a hard time understanding this, but those who are believers have this idea and understanding that, like, hey, this earth is temporary. I may live 50 years, 60, 70, 80 years, 100 years on this earth, but in the grand scheme of looking at eternity, 100 years is nothing compared to 100 billion years, and then 100 billion years after that, and another trillion years after that. And so we think in the concept of time, but time really doesn't exist in eternity. And so to focus and put all our energy here on this earth in this flesh is in a way, as believers, unwise, because this is just a speck of a speck in the course of time that we, and compared to what we would spend in eternity. And so uh Bogey, we were talking about having a view of like of life kind of like half empty or half full, like perception of life. What are some of your thoughts on that? Like, there are those that kind of look at life as half empty, like a glass half empty, and then there are those who look at life as a glass half full. And this is regardless. You could have the same situation, the same circumstance. Maybe they were diagnosed with cancer, maybe they lost somebody in their family, maybe whatever it is, the same things exactly happen to these people, but yet you could have two totally different perspective. What are some of your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think ultimately, when it comes to perspective, that's something that you control. So if you're in a circumstance that it's not so great, only you control your response to that circumstance, and who better to guide us than the God of the universe? um, if we seek that direction, I feel like, and I've experienced personally that things will work out. I don't ever approach life um, assuming that everything's going to be fair. I've grown past the it's not fair, and it's funny because our little 3-year-old or 4-year-old daughter Reagan, she's kind of adopted that phrase now. It's not fair. And now her brother's doing the same thing. And that's a child's mindset, and I think, if you're going to approach life being pessimistic, you're probably going to have a pessimistic glass half empty kind of result. And I think God, what he's good at is exercising us and stretching us. And I think in circumstances like that,